Hello everyone and welcome to another round of the CSM ACC Championship. We are very pleased to be here at Imola for an hour-long race. Currently it is just the end of qualifying, but all seems to be going well so far. As we can see, the pole sitter just going round, Dominic Olivier. He's hoping to get in one last lap before the qualifying ends. So, like last time, theirs is a split field between GT3 and GT4 cars. The GT4s have already been out and about, they've done their laps. So now it is the turn of the GT3s. GT3s have the last 10 minutes of a total 20-minute qualifying. So when this is all ended, I will take you through the total running order so far. So we can just see Dominic Olivier coming up to the line for what is most likely going to be his final time. But if he manages to get a lap in, we will ride on board, but 3 seconds left. He's just coming round. I don't think he's going to be able to have another lap, so we will jump on board with the number 70 of Charlie Martin, although she just seems to be called her lap quits. So with that, we'll just see the order in which the cars come across the line to finish things off, and then, as I said, I'll give you a little rundown of proceedings thus far. So next across the line, number 79 even, of Jelani Patterson, currently sitting in 8th place, the 148.5. Let's see if he can manage to improve at all. Crosses the line, manages to go 3rd fastest, half a second off Dominic Olivier. That is a good showing from Pat Jelani there. Next across the line will be the number 22 of Grant Willamot, currently sitting in 2nd, looking to improve, try and jump on top of Olivier. Let's see if he can. He has, he's managed to go 3/10 quicker than Olivier. Blistering lap there from Grant Willamot in his BMW M6. Blistering lap there. Next to cross the line, the Ferrari 488 of Santeri Rantala. Very nice green and black livery on there. See if he can manage to jump up a couple of places. Not quite. It did improve his time by about 1/10 of a second, but not enough to get into those top 3 spots. So 2 more cars to come across the line. The number 24 of Brian Mandeville manages to jump up a place as well, goes into 14th place, and I believe that is the end of qualifying. So, a nice end to the session there. We will take you through the starting order very shortly, as we just allow the grid to reset. So, no pre-race drivers interviews this week. I'll fill you in as to why very shortly. But with all that in mind, I'll run you through the grid. So on pole, in his BMW M6 GT3, we have Grant Willamot. A very good performance from Grant there. 2nd place, sharing the front row with Grant, Dominic Olivier. Common sight seems to be these two on track together. Last time out at Zandvoort, these two had a little bit of coming together, some on-track action throughout the whole race, really. But Grant Wilmot came out on top of that affair. Jumping to the 2nd row, Jelani Patterson coming in alongside Rantala. Moving down the order now to 5th place, Brendel alongside a fellow BMW driver in Solberg. Then jumping down next row, Jamal Badou alongside Dan Tesauro. Dan in the AMR V12 Aston Martin Vantage. An interesting choice, not the go-to for Aston Martins. I see him sitting inside his car there. The V8 Vantage often favoured amongst all of the Aston Martin choices, just the 2. Then, next row, Omar Badou and Charlie Martin. Omar with a very nice coloured Mercedes-Benz AMG. Moving back one to Charlie Martin, a common figure amongst the CSM ACC crowd. Next row, Florian here in the lone Lexus of the grid. Florian had a good, was doing well last race up in Zandvoort, the homeland of the Dutch, but unfortunately did have a few altercations with some GT4s and track, dropped down, so he'll be looking to do a bit better this time. Then, 12th place, Jeremy Gonzalez, a little bit further down for Jeremy than we're perhaps used to expecting. Previously fighting for podium spots at the last round, so maybe this wet weather has just caught him out slightly. Then, down in 13th, James Dill, in his the highest placed McLaren of the day so far. 14th, our producer and host, Mr. Brian Mandeville. He's elected to put down the director's cut. He's put down the producing role. He's thought he could give it a go in the hot seat, in the driver's seat, which is why I am doing everything today. I'll come on to that in a second. But yes, Brian Mandeville in 14th place. 15th, just behind, Ryan Quinn in the lone Porsche GT3 of the grid. Porsches around Imola, generally quite good, but they do struggle in the rain. A bit of a lethal car, very tail-happy, will try and step out whenever it can, an interesting one to watch. Then Stian Gulbrandsen in 16th place, quickly followed by Oswin Wilson in 17th. And Simon Capelli in 18th, unfortunately didn't manage to make last round at Zandvoort due to a faulty wheel, but seems to have got that all fixed and is now lined up in 18th place. And just behind, new name to the CSM grid. He unfortunately could not make last round, but has joined us this time. Joran Johansson, going for the Bentley GT3. And then to bring up the rear of the GT3 cars is a familiar name in Paul Rees. But moving swiftly on to the GT4s. No surprise here, Oscar Sandberg on pole. Managed to put it on pole for the sprint race last time out. So no surprises here, the rain not catching out Oscar. One to watch for the whole race. He has a couple of incidents though, he's a bit incident prone in the last couple of races and in the last season as well, so Oscar, with any luck, won't be caught out this time. Putting it on the first row of the GT4s, Joel Vandervelde. Good showing, qualifying showing from him. The Aston Martin, always a strong choice in the wet, GT4 and GT3. But be interesting to see if Joel can just perhaps overturn Oscar before getting into turn one. He will have the outside line, so perhaps unlikely. Perhaps think about the cutback, maybe try something into the second chicane. Then 23rd, Javon Codrington, in I think one of the better looking liveries on the grid, the Fanatec Aston Martin GT4 I should say. 24th place, Malik Martin in his McLaren GT4, the lone McLaren GT4 on the grid. Then moving back, familiar face in Kevin Manning in his Aston Martin. And one further back, Hedda Rangsetter in her Porsche Cayman. Had a bit of an altercation with the grass, and I believe it was Kevin Manning last time as well. Just got squeezed onto the grass and then had to, unfortunately took out Dominic Olivier in the closing stages of the last round. Then 27th, Sean McBride in a very colourful Porsche Cayman. Further back we have Derek Rudder, familiar face, opting this time for the Mercedes AMG. Dixon Hurst in 29th place in the BMW M4. And then Iveco Gibbs bringing up the rear of the field, rear of GT4 field, as they just set off on their out laps. So, as we can just see, the cars starting to come through. So, this time out, unlike last round where it was a sprint race and a feature race, this time it's a nice hour-long race. No server restarts, no hiccups, touch wood, just good old-fashioned hour-long racing. There will be one mandatory pit stop for the drivers to fulfill, in which they can do it any time. There's no enforced pit window. They just have to pit when they like, change tyres, no need for fuel. The GT3s and GT4s can do an hour-long race without needing to refuel. So just the tyres to worry about. And there is currently a strong chance it is going to dry up through the race as well. So within half an hour, the rain should have stopped. And then slowly as time goes on, the track will dry out and the line will appear, slicks will become the optimal tyre, and things will get spicy. Let's just say that. The slicks in the wet, it always produces some exciting moments. So as you just spot around the grid, as the drivers just finish up their warming up lap, I should say, I apologise in advance. Usually I just have to talk about things, whereas this time, as Brian, my producer and director and all-round top bloke, is in the car, I have to do it all now. So all the camera work is being done by me, so please allow me a few minutes just to get up to speed with it, but I'm hoping to keep the top quality that you're used to throughout the race. So, as the drivers just come round to finish their warm-up lap, hopefully they've got as much temperature into the tyres as possible. You can see Grant Wilmot just preparing, getting at the last little bit. The last of the GT4s just come round. And round 2 of the ACC CSM Championship will be underway very shortly. Wait for the lights to go green. 2 by 2, here they come. And it's lights out and away we go for round 2 of the CSM ACC Championship. As we go down into turn 1, Grant Wilmot leading the way from the GT3s and the rest of the GT4s. Oh, a bit of an accident there in the background. It seems the Aston Martin, perhaps, I'm not quite sure who that was, we'll find out in a second. Perhaps of Dominic Livier, the BMW number 11 scampering across the gravel there. That was the number 11 of Truls Solberg, who seemed to be making his way across. But that seemed to be all of the drama thus far. There's a big flag being thrown for someone, some damage somewhere amongst the field. Jumping back to the front, Grant Wilmot has managed to pull away slightly from Dominic Livier, who's then gapped Rantala a bit further. Jelani Patterson losing out slightly, falling down into 4th place. But there doesn't seem to be too many drastic changes of position thus far. Just jumping now to the front of the GT4 field, seeing how they're getting on. Oscar Sandberg still in the lead, in fact managed to jump a couple of the GT3s amongst the melee at the start. He will actually have to yield to them. Slightly further back there is a very congested GT4 field. Malik Martin at the front. In fact, that looked like a car round in the form of the McLaren GT3. The number 86 of Oswin Wilson managed to spin himself round, or got taken round. GT4's now just heading through the chicane. No real dramas there. So we'll just jump back to Wilson, just seeing how he's getting on. As the camera sort of settles out. It seems Derek Rudd of a company as well, so perhaps an altercation between the two there. But while we're looking at that, Olivier and Wilmot side by side down into turn 1. Wilmot just losing out slightly to Olivier. Wilmot will have another look round the outside of Olivier, just thinks better of it. Smart move there from Wilmot. Rantala's also got it for company. Perhaps just think twice about whether it's a good idea to go for that move. But now looking up the rear of Wilmot, just a slight toe coming towards the middle part of the lap. Nothing too drastic going on. Further down order, Dan Tesaro, Aston Martin, 12 Vantage. Rain lovingly falling on the screen. Looking slightly further back, we'll have Jamal Purdue for company very shortly. As we just went through halfway point of the lap, looking slightly further back, it's the 33, I think, Brian Quinn, who just seemed to get swamped there. Looking at the track map, the Porsche driver just has Truls Solberg for company. Truls Solberg was one of the drivers that lost out in the first lap, scampering across the gravel. Just having a look up the inside of Ryan Quinn. Easy move there. Well done, Solberg. Now he's got to set sights for the man in front, Simon Capelli, who's not exactly a pushover, and that Aston Martin has famed traction, but in fact, looks like Ryan Quinn might have a run in here. The Porsche not the quickest in a straight line, but Truls Solberg getting a bad run onto the gravel there around the outside. You can see there's the power of the BMW coming over the Porsche, just pulling away just as soon as Quinn pulled out of the slipstream. And Solberg's managing to get slightly later on the brakes as well. Flicking up to Scan Goldbranson, just having a look up the inside of Brian Mandeville. Thinks better of it, but now he's also left the door open for Brendel to actually try around the outside. A fantastic move there from Brendel. Thinks just saw the gap open up on the outside and thinks, oh, I'm just going to stick it there and see what happens. And manages to get on the brakes perfectly and just manages to outmaneuver Goldbranson. An excellent move there from Goldbranson. Sorry, Brendel. Goldbranson's going to be coming back as soon as possible. Number 2, Brian Mandeville. His first race of the season. He didn't take part in many races last season either, due to performing on the street. But it's good to see Brian in amongst it all in the car again. It's just hard on the brakes going through the final chicane. Car running wide up ahead. That looks like perhaps the Mercedes of Jamal Perdue, I think that was, who was running a little bit wide. It was, but he's just right under that rear wing of Jeremy Gonzalez now. Pulling away nicely, pulling a gap behind too, slightly further away from Florian here, James Dill. James Dill, a new boy to the grid this year. Just having a look up inside the McLaren. A good move there from Dill to pull the move over on Florian here. Whether he can keep it going down to the second chicane, we'll wait and see. Just having a slight look up the inside. It has also got the I think it's the Bentley. That might be Jeremy Gonzalez who's falling down here. I think it is. Branson has the gold and black Bentley, so amongst all that seems to have missed out coming together of some sorts. Yeah, it was Jeremy Gonzalez that was falling down. Brian Mandeville losing place, as has Goldbranson as well. Jump to the outside. The car's filing single file through the chicane. Making a move there is quite risky. One you want to get wrong is grass runoff and narrow walls either side of the track. Just something you want to watch out for, especially with an hour left of the race. You don't want to be taking too many liberties with forcing early overtakes. But if we just jump down, have a look, see how the GT4s are getting on. Oscar Sandberg still in the lead of the GT4s. He's got a healthy lead of about 7 seconds over Osman Wilson, who is still trying to pick his way through the field after having a earlier off. But then slightly further back from him, about 3 seconds, Joel van der Valk, who has Siobhan Codrington for company, not too far back, 1.5 seconds. Joel, his main target, of course, is a podium of this race. Slightly unfortunate circumstances last time in Zandvoort, when he had a coming together with Dante Zauro about halfway through the feature race. And spun both of them round. A bit unfortunate for Desaro and also for Mandeville as well to lose out. But as we just see, Javon Codrington got a superior run there on Mandeville. He had the inside line coming into turn 1. Whether he can perhaps get a bit over the brakes, not quite. Just had to tuck in behind. Sensible racing there from Codrington. The drivers did get a stern talking to say the least, going into this race. If you did watch the last round at Zandvoort, you'd have noticed the driving standards were interesting to say the least. So the main focus of the driver's briefing was making a move safely, especially if you're a GT3 coming past a GT4. The speed difference, you easily make the move. No need to try and force it. So we just see a yellow flag, the number 33. Ryan Quinn has managed to put himself round the name of the corner escapes me. I think it was Aqua Minerale. Indeed, it was. He managed to get himself going. That Porsche, a very rotaty car at the best of times, let alone in the wet. So, just something to consider there. That Porsche perhaps not going to be the best choice for Imola in the rain. Let's put it that way. But now, just jumping slightly further back, there is the number 331 of Mandeville and Codrington still together on track. Just keep with this for now. So just come down into the last set of corners. Codrington not managing to get close enough to make a move here, but if he focuses on the run, he's right under the rear wing of that Aston Martin, his fellow Aston Martin, using the toe as well. Perhaps he can just focus on getting a move done into the first corner. You just see the line that Mandeville choose. The Aston Martin and Codrington all over the rear of that Aston Martin and Mandeville. Has a look up the inside, but again can't make the move. That seems to be just a slight theme starting to appear as Mandeville just understeers slightly. But Codrington having another look round the outside, again tries to cut back. This would be a grand move by Codrington if he can try and get it up the inside here. But again, brakes early. Things better not. It's an hour-long race. We're only 10 minutes in. There's no point in doing something stupid coming into this part of the race. It's a lovely suit there as well. So we still focus ahead to Vandevelde. A little wiggle of Vandevelde just coming out of turn 7, I think that was. And now coming up into Taylor, turn 8. You can see where the different drivers are stronger. A little bit of a slide there from Codrington. Vandevelde just managed to scrape away, but different parts of the track suit the different drivers. This will probably be a good battle to watch throughout the rest of this race. Meanwhile, at the front, the back, Dominic Olivier is just starting to come through the rear of the GT4 field. So, amongst all of that, Olivier has managed to overturn Grant Wilmot. We saw that happen, actually, didn't we? He tried around the outside, managed to make it stick. Just starting to pull away now from Wilmot. So, Wilmot 1 lap pace, slightly superior to Olivier, but race pace seemed to fail away as we saw. I think that was the Mercedes, Derek Rudder just running wide, getting out of the way, as also McBride does very sensibly. So the on-track battle between McBride and Derek Rudder also putting up slightly. Wilmot just trying to pick his way through. Then Derek Rudder shortly follows. Rantal is also not far behind, as is Jelani Patterson. And Dan Desaro has managed to slap himself with a 15-second penalty. I did unfortunately missed if that was due to any contact or I dare say it's not going to be track limits, as does Charlie Martin. She has also received a 15-second penalty. She's currently sitting down in 11th place with looks like the Bentley of Gonzalez. So she's managed to make the place on Gonzalez, just in 10th actually, I think. Gonzalez struggling in this wet weather. He's used to being so much further up the field, but just not quite managing to make the most of it. As we actually see, yes, Gonzalez pulling into the pit lane. getting an early stop in. There is no pit window in this race. You can make a pit stop whenever you like, but deciding to opt, interestingly, to go into the pits now, when it's still raining. The rain will stop in about 10 minutes. But whether that is a good move, we'll wait and see. We'll just jump to James Dill, who has Simon Capelli for company just behind. Dill fighting with Paul Branson earlier in the race, making a move down the inside. Now Capelli just looking to see sort of grounds on it. Nice interior shots. The camera work in ACC is superb. I'll give it its due. I only just found an appreciation for it doing it just that very second. The camera quality in this game is superb. Slight side joke there. But 44 Gonzalez is still in the pits, so a lengthy pit stop. He's just managed to get on his way. So we just jump ahead to Brian Mandeville, whose wipers don't appear to be working. Just behind Jamal Badou, trying to make any inroads as he can. Jamal about 2 seconds up the road. And amongst all of that, I do believe... Oh, little wiggle there for Jamal Badou. This is going to invite Brian right under him to have a massive run coming across the start-finish line. Brian will snap that up, say thank you very much. Merc on Merc action. A bit of a mistake there from Jamal Badou. I do believe we have had a few disconnects amongst all of that. Or has... or am I telling porkies? I'm not too sure. Can't seem to find eyes on Andre Brendel, the number 31. So whether Brendel has had to disconnect, I believe he has. So we've had, unfortunately, our first disconnect in the shape of Brendel. As I think that was Paul Branson who had a bit of a issue there. It wasn't, in fact, Paul Branson. It was the sister car, I think, with the number 77. Not quite. Unfortunately, I missed who was going around there. It's a Bentley of some description. But if we now jump to the front of the pack, Dominic Olivier just starting to make his way through towards the front of the GT4 field now. In fact, Javon Codrington has managed to make his way past Joel Vandervoort. Has now pulled easily about a second gap. Aston Martin of Olivier. A little bit of contact there, perhaps a bit of a forceful move coming into there. Codrington didn't quite leave him the space. So Olivier just said thank you very much. Grant Willibot still very eager just behind. Lovely camera view coming through there. Rantala's also not too far behind. So the podium battle and the overall victory battle still just simmering is the way I'm describing it. Simmering. Any sort of mistake from Olivier, especially going through the GT4 traffic, which luckily they have now cleared, bar for Sandberg, who was quite far up the road. He managed to scarper away while Codrington and Vandervoort were fighting. So, very smart from Sandberg, does what he usually does, keeps out of trouble for the most part, but later in the race, it's been done before. He's been known to have a couple of incidents, as we have a couple more cars in the pits as well. Let's try and see who that is. That is the number 20 of Joran Johansson. That was the car which I saw having the altercation through Aqua Minerale. Also in the pits, it looks like the Aston Martin of Simon Capelli, just going for their pit stops. The train has now stopped. So, of course, means drivers will be jumping over to the slick tyres. But you don't want to do it too soon, of course, because the track is still being damp. If you've ever tried driving the slicks in the wet, don't. would be my advice. It is not tricky. There's the yellow flag, the number 79, just coming round the final corner. That was Jelani Patterson. He's managed to find the wall, trying to spin it around in front of the face of oncoming traffic. Bit of a risky move there from Jelani Patterson, but needed to get it turned around, so perhaps dipping a wheel onto the gravel, losing quite a few places there, as we saw the Lexus Florian here just drive past. So Jelani's now got to get his head down again and start to reel in those places. There's some substantial damage on the front of that Aston Martin, whether it is suspension related or just body work. We'll wait and see if he comes into the pits next time round. We can see just how long he's in there for. Looking now at Dan DeZauro, who has gone relatively unnoticed in the race thus far. Started, was in 5th place, but has jump up to 4th, with Jelani Patterson dropping down the order. But still has that 15-second penalty to worry about, and as he runs very wide through Acca Minerale and manages to keep it together, no real harm done there, as they're just starting to come on the back. I believe that was either the number 20 of Johansson. It is. He also runs a little bit wide, but then backs out the throttle. Lets DeZauro go, also coming up in the rear of Codrington, the current 2nd placed GT4. Nice simple move down the inside. Oh, the exhaust glowing red of that V12 Aston Martin. Lovely car, the Brexit-mobile, as I'm calling it as well. The meaning of life, number 42. And a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds has been slapped upon Stian Gulbrandsen, I dare say, for speeding in the pit lane, the Turn 1 Pro-Am driver. So very unfortunate there for Stian Gulbrandsen. I dare say perhaps a bit late on the brakes into the pits. Has meant he's got a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds, which is going to be very costly for him, especially if sort of around the mid-pack with the GT3. He's about 11 to 12 before the pit stop. So this is going to hurt him massively. So now just looking slightly further back, see how the GT4s are getting on. Hedda Rangsetter has managed to move herself up into 3rd place of the GT4s. That is an excellent showing. Starting around, I think it was 5th on the grid. Of course, Joel Van der Volk and Dixon Hurst are the only GT4s to have pitted thus far. But good showings from Rangsetter. If they come to any trouble, she can snap up those positions as easily as possible. Slightly further back, we have Kevin Manning. It is good old trusty Aston Martin. Nothing too untoward like it's happened from its race so far, but you can see, just looking now, the dry line has starting to appear. It's quite difficult to tell amongst this darkness of the lovely Italian weather, but just coming online, he's flashing the lights. He either knows he's on camera or just showing he's going to go past. It was in fact Brian Mandeville making his way past, flashing the lights to let him know it's safe to do so. He's not going to try and cut him off or do anything untoward. Yeah, the outside of the track, you can see the difference there. Dry line just peeling off to the left, so but not completely dry yet. The track is still damp. So any drivers on slick tyres, such as Jamal Padu, has just come to the pits as well. To him, just coming to the end of the pit lane, and also in the pit, Gulbrandsen is currently serving his stop-go penalty of 30 seconds. Hedda Rangsetter has just come into the pitch as well, as has Brian Mandeville. So this is obviously the time to pit. The drivers deeming that the track is suitable enough for slick tyres. This will be when the rest of the field are likely going to try and jump into the pit. But as we just see, that was the Lexus of Florian here that went past. We'll see how Florian's getting on. It does have the on-track company of so that was the teammate of Gulbrandsen, Bjorn Johansson in his fellow Bentley, number 20, which is currently bringing up the rear in 29th place. Florian currently sitting pretty in 7th. So, as I was mentioning earlier, this is just the hour-long semi-endurance, semi-sprint race. Last week, of course, we did have a slightly different format in the newly introduced sprint and feature race. But going back to what we love and know and love in the CSF ACC Championship, just the hour-long race. One mandatory pit stop along with a mandatory tyre change, which is recommended if the track is dry. No fuel to take on, and no other driver swap scores to worry about. Single driver racing series this. But looking further back to Santeri Rantala, the gap between the top three sort of maintaining about the same. Olivier, if anything, has maybe pulled out a slight gap on Willimot. But the gap between Willimot and Rantala steadying around the 5-second mark. The Ferrari around Imola, very nice car to drive. Of course, Ferrari do enjoy quite a lot of testing here at Imola, so it will be suited to the track. But BMW Willimot outperforming itself, if maybe ever so slightly. BMW not a favoured car amongst ACC enthusiasts, but in the right hands it is a formidable weapon. I would say that, because we see quite a few cars in the pits right now. There is the McLaren of Paul Rees, who looks like, or maybe just slightly short of his pit box, now just readjusting to try and get it sorted. Also the Aston Martin of Mr. Manning there. Slight brain fart on my part. As we see Charlie Martin getting going along with Ryan Quinn in the Porsche. And in the background, Sean McBride as well. Header Rangsetter, one of the drivers who pitted early considerably among the GT4s. The third to pit amongst them. Those yet to pit are Oscar Sandberg, Javon Codrington, Derek Rudder, and Iveco Gibbs, and Malik Martin as well. The battle between Martin and Iveco Gibbs just seem to be one to watch out for. Just half a second between them on track. Back. Rantala just started to pick his way through as well, as we saw Robin scampering past. So whether Rantala will play a part amongst this, as we also see, not quite sure who that was, just scampering through. Like a black BMWs. So we see Rantala get very close to Iveco Gibbs there. Well, it was the Aston Martin Desaro that decided to skip the chicane there as he comes into the pits. Idan Desaro also having a stop go penalty of 30 seconds, and Paul Rees stop go penalty, so some more speeding in the pit lane for the pair of these two. Very unfortunate for the pair of them, especially in the wet, of course, getting a bit earlier into the brakes than he would in the dry. Makes sense, but perhaps didn't quite maybe practice the pit entry in the wet. As Omar Badu was also, as we nearly see Paul Rees slap it into wall. Well held, that man. Yes, Omar Badu has also found himself a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. So a very common theme thus far. The top 6 still yet to pit, so whether they have any altercations such as this, we'll wait and see. So, Badu just trying to pick his way past Sandberg. Brake leaves slightly earlier, tries it round the outside. Risky move because Sandberg will naturally try and run out to the right. But he keeps it tight on the curb. Badou, careful, careful. Oh, you can see that Badou most likely has the slick tyres on. And once you get onto these curbs are still soaking wet and very slippery. On these slick tyres, without the heat in them, you're just going to spin them up like you did there, get no traction, and potentially put yourself in a wall. But well held, Omar Badou. Ironically, that place was for position, as Sandberg is yet to pit, rather surprisingly. Cycling back, Jeremy Gonzalez, the next to come through. He's chasing down Omar Badou, but of course Badou, with that 30-second stop go, will have to peel off. Gonzalez gains the position. Just behind him, that was the Aston Martin of Joel Mandeville, currently sitting about net second on the road, I think. Of course, it depends whether Codrington has managed to pull a sizable gap on him. Of course, Mandeville was one of the earliest GT4s to pit. Just coming now down onto the main straights, we see Bentley of Gonzalez and Badou head into the pit at the same time. So that would actually be a like-for-like pit stop with a 30-second tyre change. I'm not quite sure why Gonzalez comes to pit. He has no penalty to serve. So unless he... That's right, Gonzalez had that early pit stop. Very early pit stop. So perhaps he's stuck with the wet tyres and is now really struggling as the track starts to dry up more, as we just see in the rear wing. Florian here just making his way past John Vandervolk. So loads of drivers in the pits right now. James Dill just coming out.
Still a long way to go.
As our race engineer lovingly says, we're at the halfway mark. Omar Badou in the pit, Jeremy Gonzalez also in the pit. Javon Codrington, the second place GT4 driver, has also come in, just peeling into his pit box. So now it is all on Joel Vandervolk to try and make up as much time as possible for Beachburg Racing. Just coming through Aqua Minerale. The pit stop, the stationary time for Codrington will be 30 seconds, and the pit lane adds on about another 20, so he's got all the time in the world to try and make up. Just keep through. And Jeremy Gonzalez has earned himself a drive-through penalty. Very unfortunate there for Jeremy, as he's just struggling to get off the pit limiter, it looks like. I'm not too sure what's going on there. Yep, now he's starting to get going. But Jeremy Gonzalez, a drive-through penalty. I am not too sure what that is for. I have not had the warning pop up on my screen, but we'll endeavour to find out for you at home. Javon Codrington has also just come out of the pit. Vandervolk has not managed to make up enough places, I don't think. So Codrington now just going down into the first corner. Very easy pit stop for him. Joel Vandervolk just crossing the start-finish line. So Vandervolk has lost out quite a sizable amount since his pit stop. Perhaps pitted slightly too early for these slick tyres to really be in their prime. So rather unfortunate there for Vandervolk. Codrington will lap them up and try and scamper away as quickly as possible. So, just looking forward to see how the leaders are getting on. Fourier, Grant Willemot, and here, top three currently. Fourier has just moved the pit lane. Dominic and Grant yet to pit. These two have been within about 4 seconds of each other for the largest part of this race. Here in the pit there. So, still yet to come in. These drivers feeling these wet tyres. You can see that Grant is... Sorry, it was Olivier that went into the pits. I apologise. So Grant now has the overall lead. How long, not too sure. But you can see how he's sticking to the wetter part of the track. He knows these wet tyres are really starting to overheat now. And he's doing everything he can to try and down. It looks like he's coming on the back of a Aston Martin GT4. That's Kevin Manning. So doing his best to not get involved. Right, just sticking it around the outside, flash the lights and dispatches him nicely. Yeah, that dry line is very apparent now. With Willemot perhaps has played himself if Olivier has sort of gone for the undercut with the slick tyres. Interesting to see how that plays out. So yet to pit, Oscar Sandberg. So just as I say that, Oscar Sandberg has come into the pits. The last of the GT4s to pit, I believe. So you can also see the number 79 of Jelani Patterson in the pits. Also Sean McBride as well. Though Sean and Jelani Patterson have been in the pits for quite some time, so I'm wondering if they have retired from the race, either due to damage or something else untoward. Jelani Patterson is now 4 laps behind, so not quite sure what has happened there. But now just flicking back to the leader, Grant Willock decides not to come into the pits this time round. Actually, in fact, there seems to be a rather juicy on-track indication here. Seems we have Charlie Martin, Jamal Badou, that is the number 19 in second place, Dominic Olivier coming through. But Badou and Martin for track position. Let's see, Badou just getting on the inside. Now going to be the outside coming into Aqua Minerale, a risky place to try and overtake. Badou just seem to have a slightly better car. Slightly quicker on the power. Yep, perhaps Martin just struggling with traction. Slick tyres yet to come into their own. Martin pitted slightly early, managed to get some heat into them. There's also the 9th place of Wilson, not too far behind Badou, so this on-track battle is going to be hotting up nicely. Olivier scampers off into the distance. Look back to Wilson, number 86, McLaren. His sights on Badou and Martin. Just running a little bit wide there, not the best place to try and get a run. Charlie Martin. In fact, he has lost out quite a bit there from finding himself on the gravel. Martin able to pull away by about a second. So Badou's just got to be careful. He doesn't want to push too hard. There's still 25 minutes left of this race. Especially taking the curves like that. Those curves are still going to be soaking wet. And just worth watching out for. So the pack just spread out slightly there. In fact, Charlie Martin just destroying the curve in front. Just coming up the back of Van der Valk as well. Van der Valk currently in 3rd place for the GT4s. Martin flashing. Van der Valk knows she's coming through. Nicely dispatched. The GT4s obviously paying attention a bit more to what's around them. Whether Omar Badou feels, Jamal Badou feels that way as well. He did sort of force that move on Van der Valk. But Martin, having a slight issue there. Perhaps just see the back seem to step out slightly coming through Aqua Minerale. Just losing a stack of time. Also, Jamal just thought, oh, I'll just capitalise on this, cut the track slightly, but ignore that. That was a track limits warning there, but has not managed to gain anything from it, not gain the position, so no harm done. But now the Mercedes of Jamal Badou to capitalise as much as possible. You can really see him slightly different lines, approaches to the corner between the Mercedes and the Bentley. Wider, trying to use all the track to expose from Charlie Martin. As they come now down into turn 1. Mercedes just that's that superior top speed being its overalls to the outside. Perhaps we'll have a look up to the inside as well. Nope. Thinks better of it. I think Jamal Badou really trying to focus on exit here. Try and get her on the exit of the corners. Pull with that Bentley is superior, just having that slightly higher apex speed it seems. Jamal can't really get close enough to try and force move either on entry or exit. Slightly better drive there, looking to the outside. Still can't quite squeeze through. Charlie Martin really being pressured now by Jamal Badou. into Gratella now, turn 8. Bit of a hesitant throttle there from Charlie Martin, runs very wide, New can't quite capitalise. Still trying to look down through Aqua Minerale. No such dramas this time for Charlie Martin, we'll try and scamper away as much as possible. But the battle for first place has also started to heat up. Grant Willemot is within 1 second of Dominic Olivier, so Olivier actually opting to go for the earlier pit stop might have cost him slightly, whether he came out in traffic or the decision to go to dry tyres that little earlier costing him compared to Grant Willemot. Just coming through within a second. There's also the Mercedes of Brian Mandeville, and also I think that was the Bentley Gonzalez decided to move out of the way very helpfully. Going down to turn 1, Grant Willemot with the toe, just managing to get ever so much closer to Dominic Olivier. Olivier is of course going to have the back markers of Mandeville to pass. Just do so. Nicely done. That looks like the McLaren of Malik Martin. Mandeville just perhaps hampering Willemot slightly there. Just got caught out with the approaching speed of the BMW. Just parked it slightly on the apex. In 6th place, managed to improve quite a bit on that. Flashed the lights from Willemot. So yeah, Dominic Olivier has managed to scarper away just slightly from Willemot. Yeah, being really caught out by the traffic there. This is the thing is though, even if one driver is caught out at one time, comes back around toward the other driver. It's very much a case of toing and throwing amongst them. Now, the next back markers they have to pass might slightly better in favour of Grant Willemot. Interesting aspect of the class racing. It just starts to pass. Mercedes and Derek Reardon. Nice and sensibly keeps out of the way. So, actually, in fact, yes, Kevin Manning now just coming up on the back of Derek Rudder, who has had a bit of a poor getaway there. So it wasn't, in fact, Derek Rudder. I apologise for that. Ooh, just I think that was the number 88 Aston Martin, Simon Capelli, just forcing the move upon Kevin Manning there. Manning didn't want, of course, this is a position between Rudder and Manning, so no quarter wants to be given by either driver, but Capelli just forcing his way down the inside of Kevin Manning there, rather unfortunately, but also Rudder did run slightly wide onto the gravel, so Manning hasn't lost out too much here. Just try and make as many inroads as possible. Rudder slightly wide, using all of the track to his availability. Manning is opting to take a slightly tighter line. No real scraps seem to be forming just yet. One of the closer on-track battles seems to be between the number 12 of James Dill and Gordon Branson. The McLaren and Bentley very close to each other on track. Gordon Branson did, of course, have that slight earlier instant in the race, dropped him quite far down the order, as we just saw his teammate, in fact, of the new boy, whose name is currently escaping, Joran Johansson, who just came through. Who just actually looking slightly further down. Sean McBride, who had a lengthy pit stop, probably repairing some damage, has yet to have a pit stop registered, so perhaps not taken the mandatory tyre change. That was part of the pit stop procedure for this round of racing. Sean McBride coming down in 28th place. But looking slightly further up the order, seeing how the battle for first place is getting on. Dominic Olivier still in first place, managed to put in fact a slightly larger gap over Grant Wilmot, so maybe the tyres now coming into Olivier's favour, coming out slightly, pitting slightly earlier. Tyres all up to temperature. Grant opted to pit a little bit later, struggling with fresher rubber. Still one to pay attention to is the Finn of Rantala. He's just about 20 seconds off the back of Grant Wilmot, but he's not one to count out, as he showed in Zandvoort. He has remarkable pace throughout the whole race. Last time out, he started fairly high, had an unfortunate altercation with Wilhelm Fire, dropped down the order, and then managed to come back to finish place in the feature race. So those exhaust tips glowing on the Ferrari, what a remarkable shot that is. The detail of this game is superb. But Rantala not one to count out just to pick up any potential scraps between Wilmot and Olivier. Still 15 minutes left, so still everything to play for. Anything could happen. Wait to see how that unfolds. Now just looking to the Lexus Florian here, going around quite nicely. Florian did, of course, currently sitting 5th in the championship on 20 points, so matching his current round position for his place in the championship. Currently tied with Terry Rantala, so Rantala will pull a slight gap if it was to finish as it stands right now. But the overall championship leader right now, Dominic Olivier, currently looking to extend his championship lead. Of course, it would stay as it was. There's the caveat amongst all of this. Just moving past the GT3 of Simon Capella. Coming round the final corner, Grant Wilmot not too far behind, with the British flag lovingly draped over the bonnet. Just looking back down the order to the GT4 field, the number 777 Mercedes of Iveco Gibbs, who just has, it seems, Joel van der Valk just coming through to lap him. Van der Valk has closed the gap quite considerably to Codrington. As the camera sorts itself out. The gap was originally about 20 seconds when the pairs had finished their pit stops, but Van der Valk now managed to get it down to within 7 seconds, as in fact Codrington runs a little bit wide there. This will give Van der Valk make up even more time, but still about 5 seconds. Oh, a little hairy moment there as well, again from Codrington. Perhaps he's feeling the pressure now, perhaps going for that slightly... Well, he took the later pit stop, didn't he? So he has no excuse for the tyres. It's perhaps just getting a bit overzealous on the loud pedal. He's allowing Van der Valk to reel him in bit by bit. So Codrington's just got to be careful now. We can see if he is, in fact, nice and composed. There he is. His eyes of steel. You wouldn't know he's just nearly crashed twice. You can see within Van der Valk's eye line now is Codrington. The battle for second place of the GT4, so it looks like as the BMWs have come. Getting a little bit hairy there. That was Truls Solberg just heading past. Indeed it was. It has a Bentley in tow. It looks like Branson or Johansson. That will have impeded Van der Valk slightly coming through started the lap, perhaps has offered Codrington to scamper away slightly. But now the GT3s will of course have to go past Codrington as well, so it will equal itself out, as I was saying earlier. Meanwhile, Oscar Sandberg still in the lead of the GT4s. A very healthy lead for Oscar Sandberg. Hasn't put a foot wrong, had a nice simple race as well. Nearly the commentator's curse there. Has nearly put a foot wrong, going into the gravel, coming out the second chicane, but easily collected. And real hard done. So there seems to be some track pushing and shoving between Jamal Badou and Brian Mandeville, very close on track. Down into the middle part of the lap. These two have been very close to each other in the race. To see Jamal Badou try and force him. He's also got Rantala coming up for company. They'll have to give way to him, although they don't. Well, they don't in fact have to. Let's be honest. They can decide not to let Rantala pass, but Rantala will not want to get involved in this. As we see them just coming through. This camera always likes to just be slightly behind, but Jamal Badou deciding to cut the chicane, deciding or perhaps just running out of talent, entering the chicane. Rantala perhaps put him off, had to bail out of it. So a bit of a let-off there for Brian Mandeville. He also lets Rantala through, but Jamal Badou looking to try and get under that rear wing of the Mercedes as quickly as possible again. Also in the background, it looks like Ryan Quinn in the Porsche, also in on the act. Currently sitting pretty in 8th place. Amongst all of the goings on, managed to just reel in Badou slightly. Still got just under 10 minutes in this race to try and make as many positions as possible. The field fairly spread out as it is. This battle will be heating up shortly, though there is currently the number 840 Derek Rudder and Kevin Manning still quite close together as well on track. Kevin Manning still just falling back down the order slightly from the start of the race, but a good showing from Derek Rudder. Started the race in 27th place, managed to move up to 23 and 5th. Sorry, apologies, 6th on the road in the GT4s. Good showing there from Derek Rudder. Also, just going to flip to a man I've not actually yet featured yet. Dixon Hurst in the BMW M4 GT4. Just slightly on his own as it stands. His header rank setter about 13 seconds behind, but still quite a fair way off a podium fight. Will be, I'm sure, hotting up shortly. Oh, just as I say that, Dixon Hurst slams into the wall coming out of the final corner. That was very unfortunate for Dixon Hurst. Perhaps just getting one of those slick tyres on the wet curb, flinging it round, as we saw John Codrington nearly do earlier as well. So that is something to watch out for. The wet curbs really catching out some of the drivers. Into the later stages of this race, of course, with the night, it's really going to struggle to burn off any excess water through this race. But I just saw in the background, that looks like Ryan Mandeville. Ryan Quinn has managed to get past Jamal Badou. In fact, Jamal Badou has fallen down the order quite substantially. So Jamal Badou did have, in fact, another altercation. I mean, Dan Tesauro and Ryan Quinn were able to jump him while he was perhaps spun round. In fact, also it seems Charlie Martin and just enjoying her time across the curbs. But that has in fact allowed the McLaren, that was Rees, just to have a little sniff. Of course, not for position, but Paul Rees won't be held up too much to see if he can make any inroads in the last stage of this race. In fact, oh, a huge collision between Paul Rees and Charlie Martin there. Paul, a bit of a clumsy move there from Paul Rees. I think he knows he did slightly wrong, just letting her back through. But Paul Rees perhaps felt he was faster and just tried to force the move. Charlie Martin closed the door, wasn't expecting it. Whether that's resulted in any damage for the pair, that has brought Bruce Wilson quite a lot closer to Charlie Martin as well, to make the way past header rank setter. Again, oh, Paul Rees. This is some aggressive driving, my friend, and it's proving calamitous for those around you. It might be just time just to think about reeling it in a bit. He also just took out header rank setter as well. He was currently sitting in 5th place for the GT4s. That was just after Dixon Hurst's incident earlier. Would have been looking to reel him in as quickly as possible, but now unfortunately won't be able to. So very unfortunate there for header rank setter. She would have felt grieved by that. But jumping back to Charlie Martin, Lewis Wilson. The front of that Bentley's seen better days, isn't it? 6 minutes left on the clock, just passing the line for the 28th time, I believe. 29th time, I should say. Run down into turn 1. The McLaren has very high top speed compared to the Bentley, but not quite close enough for Wilson to think about making a move. Charlie Martin clatters the curbs again, but manages to pull away quite nicely. In the dash, Wilson just double yellow just up ahead. Seems to be a car in the gravel to get moving again. There is another double yellow, the number 254. That's Malik Martin who found himself round, and it is. So just unfortunately found himself round at the hairpin, whether it was contact or just driver error, I'm not too sure. Jump back to Charlie Dixon Hurst, also up ahead. Got to dispatch him as quickly as possible as he rather cleverly gets out of the way. Two McLarens. It does seem that Rees does have some pace in him. He's managed to catch back up to Wilson after that, after backing off slightly. So whether that is a better tyre advantage or a bit of... Oh, just to see Wilson running very wide, just clipping the wall on the exit as well. Wilson just carried in a little bit too much pace there, but that has allowed Charlie Martin off the hook. Now, Rees, think about it. Think about it. Clever man. That's it. Don't take out any more people. Although he definitely has some grip in those tyres. Again, just running slightly wide. But if we just flick to, amongst all of that, Grant Willimot has managed to overtake Dominic Olivier. So Olivier either coming into an issue, or the raw pace of Willimot has finally come true and managed to overhaul Olivier. Just a second between them as we are into the, just about to head into the last 4 minutes of the race. Interesting to see just how this unfolds, whether Olivier still has the pace, or it was just an untoward mistake that cost him a position. We'll wait and see whether Olivier can reel him in slightly. But Willimot currently the overall lead. In fact, Paul Rees has been handed a 15-second penalty amongst all of that, which would undoubtedly have been for one of those takeouts. I dare say the one on header rank setter, as Charlie Martin did that pass. The stewards do it leniently if you wait and allow them to go past. Jumping back to the leaders. Willimot just looking up the inside of Kevin Manning, the Aston Martin GT4. Manning staying out of the way, but he's also got Olivier coming through. Olivier takes no prisoners either. We'll get the run coming down into the second chicane, Villeneuve chicane. And dispatches him with no real dramas, takes a little bit of curve for good measure as well, runs slightly wide onto the gravel. It's not going to be helping his case for a first place finish. Willimot has managed to put about 2 seconds on him, so Olivier perhaps just running out of tyres, it seems. Taking that earlier pit stop with perhaps any grading with the cold temperatures, running onto the wet as well. Working out well there for Grant Willimot, as we see. That was the Mercedes of either Iveco Gibbs or Derek Rudder that ran slightly wide. It's Iveco Gibbs. But looking further else around the field, as we see Iveco Gibbs cross the line. I feel reasonably spread out in terms of on-track battles. Of course, there is still the number 78, Jamal Badou, who just behind has Dan DeZauro closing in on the. You can hear the Aston Martin. that V12 Sing. Jamal Balou's just got to watch out here, because Dandazaro is a man who can do well under pressure, as he proved in the previous round. So just got to pay attention and make sure he makes no further mistakes. And again, looking slightly further ahead, Brian Mandeville and Ryan Quinn reasonably close together on track. Again, no mistakes for Brian. A good showing for Brian Mandeville, the producer, host, and all-round good man, proving he's still got the goods to put in a solid 6th place position when he's not busy choosing cameras. Man I've also not featured too much in this race so far is the 4th place man of Charles Solberg. He's had a fairly quiet race, it seems. The teammate to He's just coming up on the back of Oscar Sandberg. Oscar still in the lead of the GT4 class. Just having a little bit of a wiggle, showing him where he wants Solberg to go. Easily dispatched. A little flash to the teammate. Perhaps helping him out slightly somewhere along the way, giving him a tow. So let's just flick back to the battle between Oswin Wilson and Charlie Martin. Still haven't seemed to have made any further inroads. Charlie Martin just managing to fend off Wilson for now, although there is still a couple of laps left of the race. There's still Reese as well, managing to keep up with the slightly higher up runners. So Reese obviously had the pace, but due to a few altercations seemed to have dropped slightly further down the order. Those moves, Martin and Ragsetter would not have helped his cause. Wilson getting right under the rear wing of Charlie Martin, and he might in fact have the run coming up to turn 8. Just to say that, I've missed the finish. Grant Willemot has crossed the line to win the race, managing to hold off Dominic Olivier. Apologies for missing that, but Grant Willemot has managed to win round 2 of the CSM ACC Championship as the fireworks explode lovingly into the night. Dominic Olivier in 2nd place. Santeri Rantala has just managed to come round the final corner as he crosses the line to finish in 3rd place. Good podium for Rantala. That would help his championship case quite a lot. Next across the line will be Charles Solberg. He is quite far back, relatively speaking. So just jump ahead slightly. The battle between Martin and Wilson just slightly further ahead. As Brian Mandeville crossed the line in 6th place, as does Ryan Quinn, but we'll just see if Charlie Martin can hold off Wilson. Wilson gets quite a good run coming out of the final corner, but doesn't quite have the legs perhaps to make the move count, using all the track to the inside. Martin just blocking off slightly, but does manage to in fact hold off Wilson. A good sprint to the finish there. Martin and Wilson. Solberg crosses the line in 4th, and that will mean for in here, once he's made his way round, will finish in 5th position. And amongst all of that, Oscar Sandberg comes across to win the GT4 category for round 2. He did win both rounds, the sprint and feature race last time round at Zandvoort. Joel van der Valk coming in 2nd place in GT4s, 18th overall, so he did manage to overhaul Javon Codrington. Whether that was due to Javon just slightly overextending the track limits, not too sure. Although, as in the chat, you can see Van der Valk congratulating Codrington. And perhaps the GT3s just perhaps proved to be a bit of a menace to Codrington in the later stages of that race. But there we have it. That is round 2 of the ACC CSM Championship complete. Grant Willemot, your overall winner, as he takes a loving escape into the gravel. Well done, Grant. That will do his championship hopes some wonders. He was in 4th place before the start of this race, about 7 points off the leader of VA, so closing the gap there. Dominic, Chris Corbin, who didn't feature in this race, will drop down slightly, as will Andre Brendel, unfortunately had to disconnect earlier in the race. As their drivers will just come in, finishing their cool-down laps. And I will endeavour to bring you some driver interviews after the race. We can try and catch up with a few of the drivers, so don't go anywhere. I'll have a short 30 seconds, see the rest of the drivers come in, and then we'll jump into the drivers' debriefing room, get to ask them some questions, and I'll hear all of their loving opinions. Hello drivers, I hope most of you have managed to make it in. That was a good race there, much fairer, much cleaner than last time out at Zandvoort. I think for the most part we can agree. I'll say congratulations to Grant Willemot first of all. A nice sort of battle towards the end. I didn't manage to quite see what happened between you and Olivier. Do you want to fill us in? But it was, as you say, it was sort of within 4 seconds of each other the whole race. You were closing the gap as well towards before he had his incident. Do you think it would have come down to a nail-biting finish? Well, on that note, Dominic, what did happen? Yeah, very unfortunate. But this, with the, of course, drying weather, it was slightly new conditions for Imola. But you decided to go for the undercut on Willemot. You pitted a couple of laps earlier. Do you think that was the right decision? Well, a lesson learned then for yourself. So, Thank you very much to pair of you. And then finally for the GT3 podium, Santeri Rantala. Santeri, a bit of a lonely race for you. Cool, perfect. Yeah, I would echo that. The standards were a lot better in this race than they were at Zandvoort, probably due to the nature of the track, but also due to probably the talking to that you all got at the start during the briefing. And then just before heading to the GT4 podium, I'd like to get Brian Mandeville in front of the microphone because he's always hiding behind one instead. Brian, first round, considering last year, a good race for yourself, finishing in 6th place. Yes, for sure. You said you had quite a good on-track battle with Jamal Badou as well as before Ryan Quinn closing in on the end. Was it a bit touch and go? Lovely. Well, thank you very much to all the GT3 drivers, and well done on a lovely race. Jump now to the GT4s and start with Oscar Sandberg, who managed to put it on pole, and then also come across the line in first place GT4s. Oscar, a good race for yourself. Perfect. It's a bit mean to use her as a guinea pig for your experimentation. Perfect. Well, well done, Oscar. And we'll now come to Joel van der Volt. Joel, a good battle between you and Javon Codrington, but you managed to come out on top in the end. Give us your lowdown of the race.
Green light, go, go, go.
Well, thank you, and we'll jump to Javon as well. So you got taken out then, Javon? You do not sound very happy with that. Do you think... sorry, go on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Lovely. Well, thank you to everyone for making a thrilling race for round 2 here at Imola. As always, I have been Chris Reardon. This has been the end of round 2, just the one race today. We hope you have enjoyed it. I apologise if I missed any major battles. I was, of course, as I mentioned, doing the camera work, first time doing that, so I apologise for the drivers and those at home if I missed anything, but I hope I managed to get it all for you. We'll be back same time next week. Of course, with daylight savings and all the rest of it, it will be slightly different. 2 weeks, yep, that's the one. I definitely meant to say 2 weeks. It's in the mindset of last year. 2 weeks' time, Sunday, same time. We hope to see you again. So in the meantime, remember to like and subscribe for any more content coming away from CSM, and we will look forward to seeing you then. So bye-bye for now.